will call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Here.
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 Here. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Meyers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, anybody that wants to come to the microphone for public comments.
Hi, Val Wisniewski, 511 Ransom Road. I just wanted to comment on item 12, which is the curbside pickup. I just had a few comments. Number one, I was dining in Heartland on Friday, and there's a lot of those pickup signs, and I don't think all of them are entirely necessary. Zesties doesn't even have theirs out. Theirs is tucked in by their building. Trustee Connor, your business isn't even open in the evening. Like, I get it during the day. So I just think, is it really a necessity? Do the businesses even need or want them? Is there a use for them? And then also, in kind of just collecting data on my own, there seems to be no handicap parking other than outside the Village Hall and anywhere in downtown Heartland. So I would maybe say if we could think about that. I don't think all the signs should be gone, but I don't think we need 4 in such a small area, and that maybe a handicap spot would be appreciated by the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Val.
Anybody else for public comments? The first item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve the village board minutes from the June 28th, 2021 meeting and the special village board minutes of the June 29th meeting, 2021.
Also moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from both of those meetings. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item that we have on the agenda is a consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payments. This is in the amount of $539,134.09, and I'll allow Ryan to add to, so that everybody's aware of what's going on here with the, what item number is it?
Yeah, so item number 9 is consideration of a motion to approve the contractor's application, payment number 2 for Wolf Paving. Essentially, if they approve the vouchers in item 2, they are approving that. So going forward, we're just gonna kind of put that in the info pack that the Wolf Paving or whatever contract will be coming up, and then with the vouchers, we'll try and make a notation so that we're not duplicating things. Because if you approve this and don't approve them, so.
Well, we can't approve one and not the other.
Right, well, and the work's already completed as well.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $539,134.09.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers, including that item Ryan stated that's a little bit later in the agenda that's included in the vouchers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of actions related to licenses and permits. We have bartenders licenses. This is for McKenna Stocks, Eric Bolden, Ashley Lopez.
I make a motion that we approve the 3 bartenders licenses read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those licenses for bartenders, operators licenses. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All opposed? And then we have weights and measures, Heartland Quick Lube, 425 East Industrial Drive.
I make a motion to approve Heartland Quick Lube for weights and measures.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the weights and measures license. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item that we have on the agenda is discussion and consideration of a motion to remove Woodlands Court and Tenny Avenue from the 2021 Slurry Sealing Program to be memorialized via change order at the end of the project.
Peter Gash with Dirt Milky. So I just want to briefly chat about the Slurry Seal Program for this year. You should all have this memo that I prepared. It's got a couple pictures at the back of it that shows the conditions of Woodlands and Tenny. And basically, back in 2019, when we did the CIP, we established 4 roads for the 2021 Slurry Sealing Program, which were East Industrial, Terrace Lane, Woodlands Court, and Tenny Avenue. And at the time, those were Woodlands Court and Tenny Avenue were good candidates for slurry seal. We did the Pazer ratings back in April and May, I believe is what it was. And we found that those roads, Woodlands and Tenny, are beyond what would be reasonable for slurry sealing. And we don't think that it would be a good use of the village's money to slurry seal those roads. If you look at the pictures that are at the back, you can see that there's significant settling on some of the cracks. There's a lot of areas where there's a great deal of alligator cracking, like the first picture on page 2, which just shows us that the base is in poor condition, which means that it's likely just going to fail sooner than what would be preferred with a slurry sealed pavement overlay. So the unfortunate part of it is we have a contract already with Farner Asphalt, so I discussed it with them, and basically what we would do is they asked for a 6% increase on the 2 roads that we are still going to do, which are good candidates for slurry seal, East Industrial and Terrace Lane, and we would do those, and what that 6% increase would be for is for essentially their mobilization and their travel down here and their trucking and stuff for the product that they have to bring into the village. And that's kind of all itemized in this table on the front page. And basically, we wanted to get this in front of you guys now so that if you would choose to remove those roads, we could move forward with getting them scheduled and everything. And then what I would do is issue what's called a work change directive, which basically locks in those prices with them, and it formalizes it so that we can move forward. And then we would have Dave essentially sign that, authorizing it, if you guys would authorize him to sign that, and then we would do the change with the prices at the end of the project after everything's all said and done. So I would work that out with Farner, and we would get whatever's itemized here in this front table. So doing East Industrial and doing Terrace Lane still gives you guys 2 roads or 5 roads that were slurry sealed over the last 2 years that you can evaluate over the next 2 to 4 years and see if it's something that you still want to do or if it's something you want to completely remove from the CIP. So we don't have any slurry sealing scheduled for the next 2 years in the budget, but we would recommend that Woodlands and Tenny then be moved into the CIP for a pulverize and overlay. I know that's a little bit different from what we discussed on the board meeting on the 28th, but we're working the numbers so that basically the budget numbers and everything can still remain similar to what they've been over the past couple of years. And then we would have that ready and prepared and all set for you guys on the 26th when we discuss the CIP. So our recommendation would be to remove Woodlands and Tenny from this year's slurry sealing program. And like I said, we would formalize that via change order at the end of the project.
Can I ask you a silly question?
Sure.
This was brought to us not that long ago, originally, like a couple weeks ago, when we went through everything, right?
Yeah, on the 28th, yeah.
Why wasn't this caught then, or before then?
So we were still looking at all the we were talking with Farner at the time, and we were deciding with them whether or not Farner, who's
Okay.
our contractor for slurry sealing, and we were deciding whether or not these roads would be feasible, and we were still in the discussions with them during that time.
Okay.
So we wanted to make sure that before we brought it in front of you, that we had accurate information to say, yes, this is good, or yes, this is, or no, it's not good.
Do you actually go out and look at the road?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went out and Dave and I looked at it, and Steve, our construction inspector, looked at it, and Farner went out and looked at it, and they gave us a call too and said, hey, I agree with you. This is not a good application for it. We all want a good product with what we're doing. So
Okay.
then we talked about it last week, and we went to Ryan and basically said we should probably get in front of you guys and
Okay.
make sure this is formalized. So
What's the life expectancy of a slurry on a normal one that we're doing, and what's your projected life expectancy if we did do these 2, being it's degraded more?
So, I like on East Industrial and Terrace Lane, it's going to serve its purpose, which is, I think we talked about this last meeting, basically sealing up all those air voids and everything in the asphalt and sealing the pavement. on a good road like East Industrial and Terrace, it's gonna get you probably 5 to 7 years more onto your roadway before you would have to consider doing something again, like a slurry seal or switching over to a mill and overlay. If we did it on Woodlands and Tenny, it'd probably last 2 years before you'd start to see significant, deterioration in it where it wouldn't be doing its job anymore. And that's just, because of how beat up the base is and everything, which you can see in some of these pictures, that's gonna start to come back through right away. And all those cracks are gonna propagate through much faster than roads that are in better shape that have the better base under them.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a motion that we remove Woodlands Court and Tenny Avenue from the 2021 Slurry Seal Program?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove Woodlands Court and Tenny Avenue from the 2021 Slurry Sealing Program. And should we to memorialize a change order at the end of the project, or did you not intend for that to be part of the motion?
I didn't know if we want to do that separately or not.
It's okay, we'll take it as, okay, so we're gonna remove, the motion was to remove those two roads. Discussion.
I just want to say thank you to not just go
Yeah.
straight ahead and actually catching that and stopping and realizing that it wasn't going to work and bringing it forward to us. So I appreciate that.
And that change order will, when it's all drafted up and everything at the end, I believe it will come back in front of you at the end, so. It's just basically saying that we would take care of it at that time and officially remove them. We would tell the contractor not to do it, and then we would remove them via change order at that time.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We have to get a motion out for the increase, right?
For what increase?
The increase that they're giving here.
That's gonna be coming forward as a change order.
That'll be adjusted.
The next item that we have on the agenda is items referred from the Park and Recreation Board meeting, discussion and consideration of a motion to approve the installation of a historical marker in Nixon Park.
Dave Falconer, DPW. This historical marker is proposed by Louise Hermsen. She's looking to locate it by the splash pad in Nixon Park, just for the volume of people that can see it. The sign was deemed accurate by our library historian. So Louise here will come and explain more of her historical marker.
Louise Hermsen, I'm a City of Delafield resident for 32 years, but on the Heartland side of the lake, so enjoy Heartland as my community. I also serve on the board for the Waukesha County Historical Society and Museum, and the marker program has been in existence since 1916 in Waukesha County, run by the Historical Society. The first sign was up at Lapham Peak in 1916. There are currently 84 markers in the county. We've never had one in Heartland. To just give you an idea of other area communities and the number of markers that they have, Delafield has 3, Dousman 1, Lisbon 5, Merton 4, Nashotah 1, Oconomowoc 3, Pewaukee 3, Stone Bank 1, Sussex 1, Heartland 0. So Heartland has a really interesting history, as many of you probably are well aware. I got interested when my church, the First Congregational Church in Heartland here, celebrated our 175th anniversary, the year that the community celebrated our 125th. So I'm like, why don't we have a historical marker? Because I really dug into interesting history. So the museum has been very actively promoting the marker program for the last year or so. They've had a trivia contest going. They've had some good publicity in the Freeman. They just started a historical driving tour that kicked off on July 4th that people can, it's like a road rally. People can download from the website and tour. Currently, it's the southern route of the county, so there are 10 different markers that families can visit and do some trivia questions through and potentially win prizes. They hope to do a northern tour next year. We could potentially be on the northern tour. So I don't know if you happened to see an article that was in the paper after the board meeting. I did not initiate this article, and I don't know who did, because the people at the museum said they didn't, so I'm not sure where it came from. They called me out of the blue. So I hope that isn't preempting what we should have had in terms of timing. But the location, we're really looking for a location that has high visibility. When we first started looking at this, I considered the village corner where the tree lighting is done. It's a little difficult to look at where we would put it there. I tried to see if the sign company could mount something on top of the nice marble slab that we have that says Village Center. That's not possible. And we also looked at a location that's along the Ice Age Trail along the river by the covered bridge behind Senior Tomas. Both Bob Mallow and Rick Stevens kind of took me on a little tour. They were interested in kind of talking through areas in the community that might make sense for a marker. They really favored something at the splash pad, in part because of the visibility and the great numbers of people that are down at Nixon Park and at the splash pad. So right now, in working with Dave, we're looking at a location that would be just west of the westernmost curved bench that's on the western edge of the splash pad. So it's between the lower parking lot and the splash pad area. Dave would work carefully thinking through the distance behind the bench so that kids don't jump from the bench up onto the sign. And he's planned to do some regrading to support improved drainage in that area too, so it might end up coordinating with that. The message has been approved by Ryan Wong here, who took over kind of as historian at the library after Pam Weimhammer left. The copy was really based on most of the copy that Pam put together and used for years with tours for Heartland. So it was tweaked a little bit based on the location, because the location is significant because as you face the sign from the splash pad, you're looking out toward the Bark River where the original grist mill was for the Hershey grist mill, which led to the second name for the community of being Hersheyville. So all three of the community names are referenced on the sign, from Warren to Hersheyville to Hartland. So funding, the Rotary Club would really like to sponsor it and have approved that, and that's well on its way. So we hope that this is something that others in the community feel would be a good thing to add to Heartland's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess my question is, as you drive around the country, you see all these signs, historical marker, and usually they're off the highway, about 45 miles, a long ways away, and you try to find it. And Nixon Park, by the splash pad, to me is not the location that I would think my history is going to start generating some ideas outside of, oh, there's a nice splash pad, and there's a beer garden and a baseball field. I just questioned that Nixon Park. That's the location of it. Is that really the location for that marker?
I think there are probably three key locations, and maybe more, that those of you who've lived in the area for a long time might come to mind. Because that grist mill was across the Bark River, that area really does have historical significance. The area that we mentioned by the covered bridge, that did have historical significance because that used to be a pond, and that's where the Potawatomi came back in the early 1840s, recognized that the community had started growing, and named it Shabakwanake, which meant a growing place. So actually that was the first name, so there were 4 names for the community. So those 2 locations, and obviously the Stephen Warren home, which is right across the street from the First Congregational Church, is historic. That was his home, built back in the 1860s. I like the story about the connection between our church and there, because his wife had an organ. When they built his nice brick home, he bought her an organ, and the men of the church carried that organ across the street into the church every Sunday, and then back across the street. And that was before the Watertown Plank Road was in. And then the road finally was put in. So lots of interesting history here. I know Rotary, Bob Mallow came to the Parks and Rec meeting, and he feels maybe this could be the start of more than one historical marker in the community. So maybe we could put.
The river seems more logical. If you think of the Indian encampment and that down where you can more or less visualize, than the splash pad. I guess that's my only concern. There's something about historical markers. If you were Custer's Last Stand, you get there and you start feeling it. Wow. This, and I don't know if I'm going to feel that same feeling. I was very interested in reading it. I had
Yeah.
no idea. But I think the location is my only concern. I think it's a great idea, and I think we need more. I'm glad you're gonna get us more. And, I just like a better location.
So I think it's a fabulous idea. I like it, the location. Personally, I think that's where children are. That's where parents have the perfect opportunity to read the sign and educate them, making a lot more awareness of it. With baseball games that come in there, there's people that come from all over to play baseball with the Land O'Lakes, and the Legion has, and then the kids from all the different schools and areas, plus the splash pad, plus people that come on Thursday nights to hear the bands, and that's all going around that area. And to see it, if I see a sign like that, I would absolutely stop and read it and be like, wow. And I learned a bunch of stuff too. So I think I would love to have it in a visitable area that, like Nixon Park, so people have become more aware of the area that we're in, our history, and where it started.
There's so many nice new attributes put into Nixon Park. I love the new sign, the triangular sign that's down by the beer garden that has all kinds of interesting
Right.
information. Those are
Yep.
really nice assets that lead people to stop and spend a little more time and read and learn a little bit more about the community. Yes?
Yes.
I agree with Mike. I think there's a lot going on in Nixon Park, but for someone that, let's say, is doing one of those historical runs or something, getting into Nixon Park isn't always the easiest. Because I went on Sunday and there was so much traffic, I mean, it was blocked. There was only one lane to get in because cars were parked all over. But I was born and raised here. And I would like to see it somewhere that people's attention isn't taken away from the sign itself. They're actually looking at it, say, on the bridge by, like across from Palmer's or something. We've got the nice seats up there, and you've got that nice bridge right up here, right on the river, or even by the church. Right across from, the Warren House over there. I think we've got some other areas that, to me, have more historical meaning than Nixon Park, which, named after Dr. Nixon is fine, but I just think there's a lot going on. There's a lot of signage down there, like you mentioned. We have the new triangular signs, and I just would like the historical marker to stand out on its own. So that's my only thought. I'm done.
Anybody else?
First off, I'd just like to say thank you for thinking and considering Heartland.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, and we do have remarkable history. I guess I go to the last line on the sign that says Heartland remains a growing place today. And I have to admit, Nixon Park has really grown. It is a central point of focus here in the village of Heartland. It's where we gather as a community for a variety of events and programs. It's where organizations from outside of Heartland come in. It's in the central location of what we do. It offers a wealth of different options for the community to live, work, and play in. And so I guess I keep going to that last space. I don't know if there's even an ability for a discussion of changing the location, but I'm comfortable with the location as being presented because I think Nixon Park is showing that growing place. And I think Nixon Park's only gonna grow. I think we're gonna be able to innovate that park to be something great for years to come. So I think it does. And I think then that opens up another opportunity for more signs in other areas that talk to different areas of the historical need. It's not just this one.
Yeah,
So-
communities that have multiples, they're in specific areas that talk about a specific building or specific memorial. Whereas if there's just a single one, it's kind of an overview of the community. So at this point, this is an overview one.
Right.
There could be others that are more specific
Narrowed in.
or slightly changed. If we did the one down on the Ice Age Trail, along the Ice Age Trail, which gets a lot of visibility with people on that trail, it would just be slightly tweaked to reference that's where they first came and talked about. They regathered and saw how the community was growing.
I hope you come back with that
And
one
named
too.
it. Okay. Anything else?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that, I kind of agree with Ann and Mike, to a certain point. I think Nixon Park is a great place to put it. And looking at the map, I'm not so sure the splash pad is the place to do it. If you go to the splash pad, yes, you can park by the splash pad, but a lot of people park actually in the big lot that we have. And I agree with Ann, putting it someplace where it's special and not just by a splash pad. So I think keeping it in Nixon Park. I agree with Donna and Robin about Nixon Park being a gathering place. Special events are held there. A lot of people from outside of Heartland go there. I just think there's a better location in Nixon Park for it. I'm not exactly sure where, but I really don't like the splash pad location.
That's a good point. Dave, I have a question for you, just out of curiosity. How did DPW come to that specific location again?
We were talking about high visibility locations. We originally talked about by the pond right off the parking lot, and my concern there was if we're plowing snow in there, it's too close to the parking lot and would damage it potentially. Another location where it could go is by the railroad trestle, by where the three paths meet. That'd be on the southwest side of the park. I really didn't discuss that with Louise a lot. We concentrated on 3 locations. It was the base of Hill Street, and we figured that was too hard to mount in that location. We were talking about next to the pond, and the third one was by the splash pad because of all the visibility. Like I said, I didn't bring that railroad trestle one up to Louise, but that could be a potential location as well.
So Nixon Park, though, is about to see a transformation again, where it's going to grow with the ice rink, right?
Correct.
So it is going to see spectators all year long.
Year round,
So
correct.
is there any discussion about bringing it down a little bit towards the Fine Arts Center, which is already donated by the Rotary?
We talked a little bit about bringing it, but the kiosk is already busy, so maybe we could put there. So here's what I would suggest, that if the board is happy with the verbiage on the sign, we could maybe agree with that, and Louise and I can do some homework, and we'll pin down 3 locations, and we'll have the board vote on which one they want.
I like that idea.
That's a great idea.
We could all walk Nixon Park
Yeah,
too,
same field trip.
figure it out.
Little field trip.
That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
field trip.
Yeah, I trust your expertise.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
It'd be-
Do you want a motion to accept the verbiage?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the verbiage of the historical marker sign with a caveat that you guys will look a little further into a couple alternate positions to bring back to the board to vote on.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the verbiage, and that the location is yet to be decided. For clarification for myself on that motion, does that mean find locations within Nixon Park, or are we still looking in all of Heartland?
I'm fine within Nixon Park, just.
Is that what you
alternative spot.
intended with your second?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure, just
Yeah.
that you know.
That sounds fine.
Okay. I think I already said but it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do we got next here? We have
Okay.
discussion and possible consideration of food truck application for F5 funnel cakes for street dance party in the park.
As you stated, this permit's for F5 funnel cakes. This went to the park board, and they recommended that we bring this to the village board for approval. This is for the street dance or party in the park on Saturday, July 24th.
And they have paid.
To approve F5 funnel cakes.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the F5 funnel cakes food truck application. Any discussion? All in favor?
I got a
Aye.
question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Why are we even discussing this here? If we have a park commission, a group that's saying, this is what we want to have, and we've given them the support, why does it have to come to us? They said it was okay. Why are we going through this again, duplicating something that's already been approved? I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, what if I don't like that? I mean, I have nothing to do with that park. You run the park. If you screw up the park, we'll get rid of you.
I can answer that for you.
Okay.
At your last board meeting, or not the last one, maybe the one before, you guys asked that the village board has approval for this as well.
We created a policy, Mike. That would have been the time to say,
So
don't
we have
have the
a,
village
so why
board on it.
why does the board even look at it then? Why do they waste their time?
Because we created a policy over 4 months.
So we have to review it and you have to review it for approval.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we did such a,
Yeah, that
Such a
was
great
kind of
idea.
I agree with Mike 100% on this.
that doesn't make sense, but that's okay. That's my only question.
Well, we'll be glad to review and redo
Just seems like it's a duplicate. That was our fault.
the policy, if that's what you'd like.
Okay, and we'll relook at it.
Put that
Month
on.
6.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item we have is a discussion, possible consideration for food truck application for Kona Ice for the street dance party in the park and Heartland Kids Day 2021. The applicant was Jamie Sturkin.
I'll move to approve the food truck app for Kona Ice for a street dance party in the park.
Second.
And also, he may only want one.
Oh,
And also what?
read your, it's for two applications.
Oh, and I'm sorry, and Heartland Kids Day 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to allow Kona Ice for both of those events, Party in the Park and Heartland Kids Day. Any discussion?
Did they have all the paperwork in as far as like insurance coverage and licensing for that? I didn't see it in that, okay,
We have it on file. We asked for that before they even.
okay.
The only thing that wasn't taken care of on the form,
Was the-
tax.
I saw that in the fiber. I circled that.
Yes, so we reached out to him today, and that is being processed.
Excellent.
Was it just a mistake?
Yes, just a miss on our part.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The motion is carried for both those events for that food truck. The next one we have is discussion and possible consideration of a food truck application for Nothing Bundt Cakes for Party in the Park.
I make the motion that we approve the Nothing Bun Cake for Party in the Park.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the food truck application for Nothing Bundt Cakes for Party in the Park. Discussion.
Was there the application? I didn't see it in here.
Yes.
All right.
It's right here.
Okay,
Came today.
I didn't see emails today, so I just didn't see this when I reviewed it.
It's right here.
Just for clarification, they did miss the deadline for the park boards, so we didn't have a chance to officially approve it.
Right.
But they have paid,
Yeah,
so.
that's her insurance.
So did,
No, I know all about it.
well, I guess I'm gonna ask, this is gonna be a rough one. Did the chamber bring this forward?
I'm sorry?
Did the chamber bring, I have a problem with how this came to be. So I'm just gonna come out and ask, what actually happened with this and how did it all happen? We just spent 4 months coming up with a policy. And I gotta ask, so you guys are presenting, I'm gonna ask you, how did this actually come to be?
I was just told to bring it here, and it was stated in Kelly's memo that it was not brought to the park board.
I got a phone call from Kelly's after the park board meeting and said that the Bundt Cake people want to participate, but it's too late. Do you approve it? And I said, well, I don't think I have the authority to approve it. I said, but in my opinion, if they pay the $75 fee, then it's fine with me. That's what it, and then it came to you guys.
Okay. And did it go through you to get on the agenda?
No.
How to get on the agenda then?
Who brought it forward? Who brought the request forward?
Park and Rec, Kelly Yost.
Okay.
She brought it she put the memo and put it into the agenda.
She doesn't.
Okay. So where I have a problem with it is someone on village staff put it on the agenda and said, even though it's not according to the policy, put it to the board and just let them decide. So if they say no, they look bad. If they say yes, then we've just bent the rules and we better make sure we're gonna bend them every other time that a food truck comes in.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
According to the policy, yes, I would agree.
What is your stance on this?
I agree, and I stated to Kelly, the hard part about this is, if the board approves it, you guys technically have a policy that anybody can say, well, you waived it for that, so waive it for this. But with these events, things change at the last minute, so I think our policy is a little tricky as well.
But it's still should go through, don't you, you're responsible for the agenda as president, correct?
Along with the administrator
Right.
and other people that put stuff on, yeah. This has nothing to do with nothing but cakes. It's just we just spent 4 months creating a policy and literally, and with an event that's an annual event, all of a sudden someone wants to get on it. What road do we want to go down? That's my take on it.
So I
Now-
guess I have a question, excuse me. I'm sorry, you done? Can I have the floor? I have a question for this policy that you keep saying we spent 4 months working on. Kelly had worked on a policy and brought it forward. We made some tweaks to it and then sent it back to her and said that we didn't care for that, sent suggestions to her. And then that actually got completely discarded. Who made the policy?
What do you
Who
mean?
wrote the policy?
I did,
You wrote the final policy?
and then it was approved by the park board.
Okay. I was just wondering who wrote it.
No, I-
Because I know it was completely different from what it was.
I made
And
it a
just-
little more simple.
Yep, very generic of a policy. And I think when we have something that vague, that it does leave a lot of room for questions and other things to come in. As Mike had, Trustee Meyers had stated, the policy, now that we're getting into this, that we're gonna go to the park board, to us, then over to the village board for, so an entity comes in, any entity comes in and they rent the park, okay? So they're paying money to rent the park and saying they're gonna bring in X, Y, and Z. They go to the park board, they ask park board for permission, park board looks at it, says, where is it gonna be? Show us the layout, show us this, show us that. And then they have to come to us and we have to say, did the park board approve it? That's how it should be. Did the park board approve it? Yes. Then we go ahead and take the recommendation. I'm not sure why we're nitpicking through every single thing for this policy. I absolutely agree with Trustee Meyers that I just think that it's an extra step that truly isn't needed.
In this case, this is not nitpicking. This did not go through
Can
the
I
park
speak? You
board.
mentioned twice that the park board approves it, right? We never had a chance to approve it, so. how
Correct,
can
because
we-
it was a situation that came in late. I spoke with you about it.
Yeah.
It was someone that came in because it was a brand-new person that took over. I understand that policies and things go on for a reason, and if this doesn't go through, it's not like gonna make or break the world, but it was something that came through. It was brought forth to say, hey, this person just took over this location, and they had it on because they were in it last year, and they had it on the agenda, and the other person didn't realize that this step had to be done. As soon as she realized it, she was contacted and asked if it could be done. Could it be done? Doesn't, and it was said, doesn't have to be done. We're not saying we need this done. It was a question of if this could be done. It said, it was told that they would talk to the park board, and then the park board made the recommendation of pushing it on past to the village board for this.
The park board did not
Well, the
make an
park,
announcement.
some of the park people, excuse me.
One.
Who on the park
Me.
board?
I just said I didn't have a problem with it,
And
but
Nick
I'm not the
Miller.
park
Nick Miller
board.
was the other one that said it because he was on the chamber and said,
That's
it's
not-
too late.
That's not true. I've talked with Nick Miller. He has the email, at which he answered no. He's running food trucks. That's what I'm saying. This is actually a big debacle, because someone walked into Village Hall and said, get this on the agenda. Nick Miller.
Nobody said get that on the
Nick
agenda.
Miller has stated that he said no, and then someone at the chamber took an extra step to try to get it on. Nick Miller said no and has the email of him
I
saying
actually
no.
have the emails from them, so I'm going to absolutely disagree with you on this. I have the emails from it.
I can only go
And
from-
nobody came into the village and demanded that be put on the agenda. I came into the village because I was coming to talk with the police in regards to parking. So I said, seeing as I'm there, I will ask the question. And I specifically went into Darlene and said, is this a big deal? Which we've had this discussion on the phone, so you know this. You called me on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
even though you talked to Tim on Thursday, you called me on Saturday to reiterate this whole conversation.
Right.
And I told you that I went into Darlene's office and I said, hey, I had a question. Could someone still be able to do that? Darlene said, that's not my department, that is Kelly's department. Kelly runs those special events. Okay, I went over to Kelly. I said, Kelly, just asking a question. We have actually a few people that came in, someone that was at the 4th of July parade that also wanted to be involved. We are asking for one of our members if they could still be involved. It's not a big deal. She said that she would talk with Tim, and she's like, and we could get it on the agenda and just bring it in front of the board. That's the way I left it. I didn't know
Okay,
even what
that's-
was going to happen with it. I walked past Darlene. Darlene said, "What happened?" And I said, "I'm not sure. Am I correct?" I said, "I'm not sure where it is at." And then I walked into Ryan's office. So that's exactly what happened.
Go ahead.
I just, for the grace of the board and just the public in general, I appreciate the conversation. Just want to remind that I think mistakes do happen quite a bit. The board just approved 2 motions ago, an application for the funnel cakes, which does not have a signature on the bottom, nor any information for office use. It was not signed. It does not actually say it was processed whatsoever, but we approved it. We then moved and approved, after that, another motion for Corona Ice to come. There was an application that was in front of us. That application is only for reserving the park for party in the park. And then it had the wrong amount, which then Mr. Faulkner had to point out. So I just, for the grace, I just want to say that we even make mistakes because we just made 2. So if we keep talking about a policy that has an application and we just made a mistake. So I think it's a learning curve, and I think we're all trying to learn a new process and get things in, and I just appreciate the fact that we're trying as hard as we can. So I just wanted to put that out. And I'm happy to share if nobody has Nothing But Cakes application that was sent today. I'm happy to share it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I got them.
Isn't part of the question here also how it gets on the agenda? Things cannot just randomly be put on an agenda.
Correct.
It's my understanding it takes either 2 trustees going to the president. This is what I was told when I started.
Or one of the administrator.
Oh, right. When I started, I was instructed it takes 2 trustees to bring it via email to the administrator or the president, and that the president was ultimately responsible for the final agenda after meeting with the administrator and collaborating. But when it comes down to it, I was advised by actually the League of Municipalities attorney, Claire, that it is the president's final decision.
We actually adopted a policy in February of 2019. I'm happy to look for it and email it to you.
I'm just saying that's what I was told when I started.
This board, prior to me starting, adopted a policy stating that 1 trustee could bring things forth. I've
To
had
the
it-
president or administrator,
or
not just to
administrator.
anybody.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
But I can send it if you need it.
And
I
therein
have it.
lies my issue. So we're going to bring up a policy to talk about a policy on one that we should bend and one that we should follow. But I'm just going to come out and say for this board, if we're going to make policies and then not follow them, even within 1 or 2 months, I mean, I have nothing against Nothing But Cakes. I think that it just gets real, we have to approve everything after. Then any food truck that comes in for a different event that's at the park, we have to approve it. I mean, there is, I understand, okay, they made a mistake, but it's never, oh, we made a mistake, we can't go there this year. We got to do next year. It's always, we made a mistake, come on, Heartland, help us out. And it's not a Heartland vendor, it's a Brookfield vendor. Their only tie to Heartland is that they're a chamber member, so, that's all. I think we're getting down a road of bending rules, but that's fine. It gets very hard when you're also, for anybody in a position, how do people know when the rules are gonna be bent and when they're not? And that starts getting into favoritism and stuff like that. That's just my opinion.
I have to agree with the president, especially since we just approved 2 applications that are not completed.
Right. The
So
difference with those it went through park board and they've paid. Now,
Right,
we
but still,
actually
but we
didn't
said-
charge
To your
tax,
point,
but
though,
yeah.
your point is valid. We
Yep.
set a policy that was, we wanted a full application, and you're right.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
just approved 2, so I
Right,
would agree with
right.
that.
So, but I don't have to say any more on that, but I just think it was, and I don't think anything from staff should go on the agenda without the administrator knowing about it, or knowing the background on it. Anybody else? I yield the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sad situation that the bundt cake didn't get on time, but from a policy procedure, that's my concern, is that it didn't follow procedures, and no harm foul to anybody, but how it got on, I think is setting a bad precedent, so I think we just have to follow that. It has to be put on the agenda the appropriate way.
I agree with what Rick said. Word for word.
Anything else?
That's it.
Anybody else? I'll make them, or wait, no, we already had a motion and okay, so we can just call the question. If no one else has anything else, the motion on the floor is to approve the food truck for the food truck permit for Party in the Park so I'm gonna call the question now. This is calling the question for the approval of this. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Aye. That motion fails.
Does Darlene need a vote on that?
Did you get it?
Did you get it?
Do you want a roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, roll call vote. Call it.
Trustee Anson?
Nay.
Trustee Doral?
Aye.
Trustee Meyers?
Nay.
Trustee Walshiger?
Nay.
Trustee Connor?
Nay.
Trustee Lucky?
Aye.
And President Castro?
No. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a motion to approve the contractor's application for payment number 2 in the amount of $22,409.66 to Wolf Paving Company, Inc. for the 2021 paving program. I would ask for a vote in some way, shape, or form, because we've already approved this. So I would ask for someone to make, I would entertain a motion for someone to say, we've already made the motion, but we're just solidifying it in some way, shape, or form.
I'll make a motion that we've already approved this in the vouchers, step 1, so we're just solidifying because it's on the agenda as number 9.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this item has already been approved, and we're just solidifying that approval. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. The next item we have is consideration of a motion to approve the submittal to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the MS4 Annual Stormwater Report.
So part of this MS4 permit is that the village board gets to review it, and I bring it in front of the board and touch on some key topics here. The village of Heartland is required to do this. It's per DNR code NR 216.07. Part of this includes we have to supply a public education and outreach program for village residents and staff. We do that in conjunction with Waukesha County. There's a couple of events in here that like start a Smart Salt workshop. We do that, and our staff, what we do is they tell you how they recommend salting, how much salt per lane mile. Some of this other stuff is kind of interesting, like this WAV, it's Water Action Volunteers. What they do is a volunteer group, and they will test total suspended solids in your ponds and streams. So that's kind of interesting. This other one, I didn't really know much about it until I looked into it. It's an Asian clam monitoring. They did this in the Pewaukee River, and I guess these clams are very invasive, and they take over ponds and streams, which I didn't realize.
Do we have any?
We do not, no. And then as far as staff goes, we have to do a list of discharge. We have 31 outfalls that we inspect and make maintenance reports. We have 9 ponds. The 9 ponds, we have one on Elm, one at CCI, the business behind there, it's a public pond. Centennial Park, we have one. Nixon, we have 2. They classify the overflow for the splash pad as a pond. Yeah. Campus Drive and Highway K, we have 2 up there, and the biggest one we have is on Cottonwood and Lindenwood. So we catch that too. And part of the collection services that the DPW does is street sweeping. We sweep every month, and last year, through our weight tickets, we hauled 55 tons of material to the dump sites. That's kind of a staggering number. For catch basins and sumps, which would be the storm catch basins in the curb line, we have 396 of them. And what we did is we hauled 14 tons of material out of them catch basins.
How often are those cleaned?
They're cleaned once a year, the catch basins.
Do we get a lot of leaf
Yes,
debris in there?
That's why we do it in the spring. So why we do it in the spring is because the catch basins hold all the solids. So they'll catch the leaves, and they'll also catch like garbage, like soda bottles and what have you. So that way we suck them out so they don't get into the river.
Okay.
So also in the back here, there's a Village of Heartland stormwater prevention plan that we have to follow. We get to the state. What that is, it breaks down the village DPW garage because the garage is right there close to the navigable waters. We have to check and inspect our salt dome, our bunkers that we have for stone, dirt, and what have you. Just we got to make sure that doesn't get in there. The fuel tanks, we're required when we put a fuel tanks system in that we had to put a roof on it. So we put a roof on it so we don't get any wash off of the tanks when fuel spill. And then there's forms in here that we have to follow. R&M designed them, and then we utilize them. Tons of municipalities use them. So what we do for pollution reduction standards, here's the total suspended solids reduction that we want and the phosphorus. So we're pretty close with this. For like new design, new developments, we collect, we want them to collect 80% of the runoff and 30% of the phosphorus. So, and infill development, it's 80 and 30. So infill development is like the downtown area, and if there's a vacant lot, so that lot would have to collect 80 and 30 on the phosphorus. Then redevelopment is a little bit different because that's a little bit harder because the runoff in the ground is pretty much established, so it's pretty hard to control it. So we go 60-30, 60 suspended solids and 30% reduction on their phosphorus reduction. And the village does have an ordinance for this. It's section 76-7 and 76-10. So we do have to follow that as well. And then in the back, that shows all the ponds that need to be inspected. So what we do is for like, I'll use River Reserve, for instance. That subdivision has a stormwater agreement plan with the village, and they have multiple ponds, and we need to, they need to inspect them and do the maintenance on them. If they don't, we have to either do it or hire somebody and then charge the homeowners association back. So in the back, that's there's a map, and it shows all of our stormwater ponds and infiltrations, and that's about it for stormwater. It made it sound pretty fast, but it took 3 months.
Can I ask you, what are outfalls? What are outfalls?
Outfalls are where the stormwaters, when they leave the catch basin, is a pipe that leads towards the river, and
Yeah.
that's your outfalls.
Okay, I didn't know what that
Yes.
was. Okay.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah, this is.
That's a lot.
Oh, pretty impressive.
I'll make a motion to approve the submittal to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the MS4 annual stormwater report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the submittal to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the MS4 annual stormwater report. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Now we have consideration of a motion to approve the 2022-2023 property tax assessment and billing contract with Waukesha County.
This is just an annual contract. We do the billings through January 31st, and the July collection after that is done by the county. So it always has been. Just makes it a little bit easier. They send all the delinquent notices, everything.
How much do they get out of it then? for
It's
doing
like
that?
$1.72 per parcel for 1 year, and just depends on how many parcels and how many people submit.
Oh, it's on here. Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 property tax assessment and billing contract with Waukesha County.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2022-2023 property tax assessment and billing contract with Waukesha County. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have discussion and consideration of the policy regarding curbside pickup signs. We had voted to keep those in place even though the state of emergency is done and COVID seems to be somewhat behind us and things are more opened up. But we had made the decision to keep curbside pickup signs, but so now we wanted to maybe talk about policy, whether we want to have the chief go around or DPW or someone and talk to some of these businesses. Chief, if you want to, and come and just tell the board what we've talked about.
All right, so Chief Torren Misko, Heartland Police Department. So I look back, obviously at our first June meeting, we ended the official state of emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the things that was born out of the COVID-19 pandemic was the curbside parking for the businesses on Capitol, North, and Cottonwood. We have 8 total businesses that utilize that curbside pickup. So I went back to that meeting. I was not present for the June meeting on June 14th. But I watched it on YouTube to get some direction to make sure, because over that time period that parking went into effect, a lot of different things were said about how the curbside pickup was done. And the board had acted in a state of emergency to get that resource to the businesses so they could utilize it as quick as possible. So there has not been an ordinance put in place that dictates the actual use of the curbside parking. But some of the direction that's been given through the board from the time this was created was that 1 space per designated business should be designated for the curbside pickup. That the parking space is not exclusive to any one business, but can be used by any business as long as it's for the curbside pickup purposes. And then also how it should be designated, that we issued those curbside pickup signs. That's how the parking spot should be designated. No other additional signage, barriers, cones, caution tape, anything like that should be used to designate those spots, just that one sign. So I had recently, to try to give those businesses that have the sign that direction and that policy so that they can abide by it, sent out a letter to all 8 businesses end of the week, middle of the week, last week via U.S. mail, just advising them that this is still in place. Here's some of the direction that's been given by the village board during that time that it was created. For your use, and we ask you to abide by that. So those are the 3 kind of criteria we sent out for that.
And if they don't want it anymore, let's say they just decide they don't want it, let's just say ABC company had it, now they go, you know what, I'm not using it. Who do they call you and say, I don't want it? Do they call the village hall?
Great question. It was at the actual end of my letter. I did put that in there to say, if you no longer are using the sign, well, obviously don't throw it away. We'll take it back. And I put down Dave Faulkner's phone number from the Department of Public Works, and that he would be able to pick up the signage and then store it appropriately at the DPW. But that we do want it back, so they just don't think, hey, I'm not using this, it's taking up space in my shop, and then discard it.
Are they allowed to move it to, let's say it's in this parking spot, and they go, yeah, I think I want it moved down to this way?
To my knowledge, no exact spots ever been designated.
Oh.
Only businesses have been told, you've been accepted, here's a sign, but never a spot was like this exact spot.
Okay.
Unless you know of something different. Dave.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. I'm done.
When they do pull them up, you see some of them on the sidewalk where they'll be up against their building. That actually is the business owners just being helpful and saying we don't need curbside pickup now. It isn't actually an enforceable sign. It is not enforceable. So when semis are coming in or anything and people are unloading food or whatever supplies they're unloading, I mean, you see them sometimes on Capitol and sometimes on North Ave and a few times on Cottonwood. But it's not enforceable, but everybody's been playing pretty nice in the sandbox, but it is a privilege. And I guess one thing I'd like to see the board do is actually recommend to the police, if someone has 8 cones out and they're taking up 3 places, or they're being belligerent to citizens, that thing's getting yanked, or I'd like to see it that way.
Yeah.
Where,
So
even if it's in the
obviously-
trunk of the car or in the back seat, where it's like, nope, you lost your sign, and then send a letter to DPW saying that person abused that privilege.
As a police department, we don't create laws, we enforce the laws that our elected officials have created. And then we look for the more black and white guidance, the better to us, just because then we go by the letter of the law and it's very clear and easy. But again, this was done to help businesses in a time of need, and it was thrown together quickly. And we're still looking to continue with it, at least on a temporary basis. And I would say my recommendations to the board would be this. If we're looking to do this permanently, I think we look to adopt an ordinance and make it black and white. If we're looking to do it just for a temporary time frame, we come out with some type of policy or guidelines. Again, the president pointed out some issues I have with enforceability. So like, for example, I don't have a curbside pickup ordinance to like write a parking ticket to that person for, per se. So that becomes problematic for a violator. But then flip side of that, let's say I have a business, which I currently have one business that does use multiple spots even after having conversations a couple times. I have nothing to enforce that either, to say you only get one spot as a designated business. Again, as our business owners, we expect everyone just to cooperate and get along and do what's best for their business and try to follow the rules set forth. What I would do if this continues to be an issue is I would bring it back to the board and say, I have XYZ business not following the guidelines you have set forth that I was able to capture. How do you want to handle this? And then you can say, well, then we're no longer going to designate them as a business or give them another one. I mean, you have a lot of different options then at that point. But those would be my recommendations, whether you're looking permanent. I would say let's get an ordinance, let's get a letter to law and make it clean. Temporary, I get it. We don't want to spend a lot of time if it's a temporary thing, but we'll put out some direction. If it's an issue, I can always bring it back in front of the board to address the particular issue.
Thank you, Chief. Actually, that's why on June 14th, I was trying to urge the board to slow down for a second, because my fear is that they're out. To your point, we have not gone all the way around about it, and it's very difficult for you to enforce something that's not actually law. So I appreciate that. And I just have one question for you. It's related but unrelated. You had stated, and when you first came up to speak, that you were taking direction of the board, which gave you the items to bring forth to talk to the 8 businesses. Did I miss that, where we gave direction to the police chief on these items?
So no direction was given to me, but through your discussion of what you guys were talking about, those are the things I took out of the discussion and said these were what they were looking for policy.
Okay.
Guidelines.
Guidelines.
Nothing more, nothing enforceable, but expectations of what the curbside pickup would look like
Okay. Thank you.
without an ordinance.
Thank you. That's all I have.
And I do want to note that we have not had a lot of issues with any of this. Obviously, I reference an issue, but it's not like this is a constant problem or issue. Again, anytime an issue comes up, it's always real clean if we have an exact ordinance or good policy to follow and a way to follow up with any other issues.
I appreciate also that you wrote up that letter and that, and I was also curious too, because for direction, I think it's great that you are doing that and putting a letter out to the businesses, but looking back at the minutes, I mean, this should have been on our agenda a bit ago, as requested right after that meeting, to be on the next agenda, and it wasn't. It got bumped past this. And in here, Trustee Anson stated that temporary curbside parking was not intended to be exclusive to businesses, which you just addressed, but rather for all businesses in the bid district. And Trustee Meyers stated that the temporary parking was a local decision made to support the state of emergency. So it was just a local decision, again, why you can't enforce it. And then me saying that it should be placed on the next agenda item. Because I do think that that was for the state of emergency, but I do think as a board, we should consider how long we want this to go on now. Like, should it be for 6 months and then readdress it? Are we going out for a year? I think we should have something in black and white, an end date or a rediscussion date. I don't think this should just be blatantly set out there. Because as stated, as our downtown's getting busier, we need that parking.
Regarding that point, Mike Meyers, and I don't know if it's in front of you, you'll see it, whoever seconded it, made a motion to end the state of emergency but keep the policy in place. I did call and ask, I mean, that's a totally legal, so we could still change the time again, but right now it would be 1 year from that meeting.
For clarification, then we had a resident speak, and then it states, President Vanderstel stated that the board would hold the parking piece until the next agenda. A new motion was made to end the state of, just for the village of Heartland, but I have it here. And we did vote on that. So regardless, that's inconstituent. Thank you, Chief, for sending out the information to the businesses. And I think we should discuss maybe a policy or.
So I think to make it life easy for the police and that,
Yeah, it
either
just makes it easier.
cancel it now, or if we want to do it, we got to make a policy so that they can enforce it. And we're putting them in a bad
We are.
predicament right now.
Well,
So-
from an enforcement perspective, I don't think they've had a real issue, other than Senior Tomas, correct?
We've had the one business just that has taken multiple spots.
It doesn't matter to me. I mean,
I-
we'll just collect the signs and we can be done with it, but I know that Trustee Meyers had done it because he was trying to help the businesses. It was something that was helping businesses, but I mean,
Well, I don't think it has to flip to the negative, where we're just saying, well, we're gonna pick up the signs tomorrow, but I do think having something in place, at least telling the businesses, like, we support you, to Trustee Meyers' point, we wanna continue to have them. And this is how long we're gonna have them. If you feel that you need it longer, let me know, but just so you know, this is, again, I think giving them some sort of idea of that, I don't want them to think that they're gonna wake up tomorrow and they're gonna be gone either, right?
Right.
I mean,
Well,
I wanna
wasn't that
honor what
addressed in your
Trustee
letter
Meyers
pretty
brought up.
much? That it, not a timeline, but the guidance of what it is. It's a privilege, it's there, here's the guidelines of how to use it, correct?
Yeah, so you're correct, there was no timeline. Because
Right.
don't have one to give. Just kind of talked about the state of emergency and how this all came together, and that this was some of the guidelines that were discussed, and that we have an expectation for them to follow. So there's really, this is just like, this is how we would like to see it done. It's really a policy, a guideline. There's no ordinance, nothing enforceable, nothing to that line. And to be fair, that's why I wanted to write the letter, is
Yeah.
I didn't know for sure if everyone knew that. So I want to say blanket, there's 8 entities that have this available to them. You've all been given kind of some expectations here moving forward.
And then we were record for the village also.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yep.
would also like to see the woman that spoke at the beginning of our meeting, handicap parking on the main street. I think that was a very good point to make. We do get, in front of the drugstore, you can't, a lot of people can't park because there's only like 4 places, so they have to park here in the back. And some of those people, family members, can't make it up those stairs. And it would be nice to have handicapped, even for a few of the people going into some of the restaurants on the other side of the road. If we're going to, we either have to do an ordinance or pull the signs, as far as what I'm taking just down to black and white. I think we either have to do an ordinance, even if they're only gonna be up for 6 more months, so the police have something to go by, or we need to say, okay, in a week, we're gonna pull them, and then we may look at the possibility of putting in like 2 handicapped parking spaces downtown at another time, with another whole issue.
Ryan, do we have an idea if the businesses, excluding the one that's sitting at the board, the businesses, the 8 businesses are still utilizing them? Have we even asked them if they want them?
I haven't received, have you received anything?
I have an update just from
Oh, okay.
today. We checked the area before the board meeting. They were, well, I don't think yours was up, Rick,
That,
your sign, but everyone else, I think, had their sign up, just one sign. And then there was 3 or 4 cones at Senior Tomas that looked like they were probably blocking 2 spots. So,
Did any of the businesses respond to you? And say,
no,
yeah,
I have
we
not
use
got any
it?
response, and the one thing is, I sent that before I left, going out of the office. I was out of the office Friday, and I don't know how, did you receive your letter yet?
I saw something today
Okay.
That came in, but
I don't know
Mondays
how
I do not
quick the
get a chance
post
to look at mail.
office is.
So,
So we did do it via mail, US mail.
My whole process
Yeah.
on this was, these are very trying times. We're trying to help our businesses. We're trying to do whatever we can do. And we've done things with liquor license, or for license for that. And I don't think we're in a position to find out when the hell this is gonna be over. And putting a timeline in to say, hey, it's gonna be over at this time, it doesn't float with me. We're going with some tough times are going. If this is helping our businesses, we're providing that, I think we have to keep it as an open-ended type thing, that if we find out it's really not being used, or things are getting back to normal, then we can change that. But I guess I'm real leery of trying to put a timeline on it, because, I don't know how many people are gonna still be here in 6 months and 8 months down the road. It's like, next year, what's gonna be? I don't know. It's tough. All you do is talk to other businesses, and we're all having the same problems. So I'm a little leery of putting a time frame on it, but just to keep it going the way it is and enforcing, and what just really irritates me is somebody trying to screw in a fellow business by adding, I'm gonna take more than I need, and then bitching up and yelling at and swearing at some of our citizens because they parked in a spot. That to me is a kick in the butt. So I guess that's what my feeling was doing is, let's help. Let's do what we can. I mean, we're really limited in what we can do because of the way the governments did things, the way our governor flip-flopped. So that's, I don't want to put a time frame on it. Just like to keep it going, but I thought your letter was very good. It said exactly what I was hoping for. And if we can get one of our business members to comply, it'll make it a lot easier for all of us.
Yeah, that's why to Mike's point, I feel like there should be a policy to support the police department if they need to enforce something, because I think of someone like Rick, right? So you're the only one that's gonna, if someone needs to use the curbside parking and they can't because someone's abusing that spot, let's just say, I don't know if that has happened, by the way, we don't know.
Right.
Right, because we don't have anything to enforce it with. You don't have anybody to call if somebody is abusing that, I mean, I know I'm picking on you, that's probably, you're trying, but what if they're not there, and then now you've got somebody that needs the spot? So I feel like the policy would help you in the long run, because now you have a direct, like, here's who I should call if I've got an abuser of the spot, that kind of thing. I guess is where my mind was going, because I agree with Mike, we want to continue to help the businesses. They just, what do they do if now someone is, we never thought about that, you know?
Well, and we did. We thought people would play nice in the sandbox, and we haven't had many problems
haven't,
with
that's
people
true.
other than other than the business over on North Avenue. That's the only one that's connected with their back lot with 74 brand new parking spaces in a brand new parking lot is the only one that had issues and also needs the street and the Maserati viewing. But the fact is, everybody has done very, very well. And now when it does come to people knowing if someone's doing something, I've been, I won't name the business, but I've been on Capitol where it's like, hey, you can't, that's for curbside. But if that person parks and is like, kiss off, and they go in, there's nothing we can do. But we haven't had a lot of problems at that. Like, we know right away if someone's not paying attention to the rules, because people sometimes don't realize it's not a stop and run in quick and get your food. It's curbside pickup. Remember when there used to be contactless, or close to contactless, but where they just park and they shouldn't even shut their car off.
Right.
They're just standing. So it has worked out really well. We haven't had a lot of problems.
There's been minimal police involvement. I have heard anecdotal stories. Obviously, I can't put a lot of effort and faith into those because everyone's got them, and I don't know what was true or what wasn't.
Yep.
But we weren't contacted on those anecdotal stories.
And even if you were, though, what
We
we're
weren't-
saying, you can't do anything.
We would maybe just have a conversation, try to fix some problems, because they were all business-to-business problems. Nothing was consumer-to-business issues.
Okay. So what do we?
Well, we can draft something up and bring it back. We can have the police chief draft something up and bring it back.
We gotta have something to do it.
No, it's not for just any certain business. It is, the businesses chose it, because in a way, they're keeping track of it. And then, it's not exclusive, though, to that business. If someone goes in front of Hometown, but they're picking up curbside for the bank to bring them some money, you know what I mean? That, they can do that just fine. But I think putting it on paper is not a bad idea, so I'd kind of like, I mean, I'd like to
And I'd say that-
Chief and Ryan put something on paper and bring it.
Don't we have
You
to
know,
have an attorney
clarifying.
do that?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. So policy just gives you direction.
Yep.
Still no teeth.
Correct, no teeth,
Correct.
So,
no teeth.
It has to be an
the
ordinance.
teeth to the policy could be if issues arise, the chief will bring it to the attention of the village board. But then you guys are gonna be the judge on whether you pull that curbside back or not.
But then we're pushing it off another 3, 4, 6 months.
An
So
ordinance
the-
would be-
an ordinance
Weeks.
is
That's right,
prudent.
yeah.
We really should draft an ordinance ASAP.
We
Specifying-
can, but we're doing an ordinance that's not gonna be approved for 3 months, and then 9 months later, this is gone. We can do
Right,
that.
but I don't
But
think
that's
in
what he's
9 months
saying
this is
is-
gonna be gone. I think that from talking to the other businesses in town, well, Rick, obviously, but other businesses that have had the curbside pickup, they've found that there's a lot of people that really enjoy the curbside pickup, where they don't have time to go in and wait for a table and sit and.
Yep.
So I think we're helping the business by putting an ordinance in place, period. We're not gonna cut it off, we're not gonna get rid of it in 9 months.
Yep.
This is Heartland now. And I really liked the idea, and I'm sorry I never thought about it, the handicap, we don't have any handicap spots.
But there is one in Inside the gas station, there is a handicap
Yeah, it's
there.
the first one.
That's for
But-
anybody, but I'm just saying, there is
people
one
think
there,
that
but.
that's just for the gas station.
No, it's not.
But
No.
I know it's not, I know
But
it's not,
everybody assumes
but
it is.
everybody
'Cause I
assumes
assumed it
is.
was.
Any
at the same
handicap
time.
spot is for anybody.
Right.
Are you done?
I was just gonna say, so I agree that I think we should have the handicap spots, I think we should have an ordinance, I think we should try to get it done as quick as possible.
Could we, without doing an ordinance, could we, instead of making it pickup only, could we make them 15-minute parking spots?
I don't think we want it. Well, I never wanted
No?
that. No way.
Well, I'm just
You
saying
can't park.
then-
It's for curbside pickup. Although I don't want 15-minute parking spot. You know what I mean? Because it's curbside only. You don't get out of the car.
Well,
The food comes out and then you go. That's just.
I just thought without, I was just thinking then you wouldn't have to do an ordinance. I'm trying to figure out a way not to have to put something legally down.
Oh, yeah.
With that thought in, if you put down a 15 or 20-minute, that means we've gotta have the police officers go around with chalk
I know.
and chalk the tires, and that's just one more thing.
Right.
But 15, we would typically
It's
just
really
sit,
hard to-
park and sit there for 15
Right.
minutes. And we'd have to time it out and make sure they didn't move a spot.
Right.
So make it 5 minutes. I mean, I don't know.
So,
I
with the
just- I was trying
curbside,
to
it makes
do
it really
something-
easy. Your car's gotta be running, you're sitting in your car, you're waiting for food, you're done, out.
Okay.
What do you recommend, some kind of policy and work on, ordinance going forward?
So I just want to be real clear to the board because I don't want you guys to think the world's falling here because I don't want that, my message to be like, we got to do something quick. This is terrible. This is chaos. No one knows where to park. That's not happening out there. We've had very, very few issues. So I'm not saying we need it, but I will say this, when it comes to police matters, it makes my job very much, a lot easier because then I just go to the ordinance and say, if you're not doing X, Y, Z, it is what it is, and I could give a citation or a warning or whatever, and I can abate the issue that way. Without it, I'm having conversations and hoping for compliance otherwise.
Which is why I think we originally wanted it on the agenda,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, because we discussed that a little bit, yeah.
And if it were to go to ordinance, obviously I could work with the village attorney, but my recommendation would be some of the restrictions very similar to what I put in the letter. And then obviously we would define what curbside pickup means. And then it would be just like another one of our $25 parking tickets. So,
What would happen then if we didn't need them? And that ordinance is there, does it just sit not being used?
The signs wouldn't
Correct.
exist anymore, so.
Well, I know, so then we just have an ordinance that's for nothing?
correct.
I know, I know,
We actually
that's,
have tons of them.
I know,
I mean, somebody could bring their horse downtown,
Right.
you know? I mean,
I know, I just.
we know where we get tired of it.
But yeah, so you're right. You don't know what's gonna happen 2 years from now, and then if it is, we've already got something in place.
We're
that
like
thing,
locked and
and
loaded.
It's enforceable from day one.
That's true.
Yeah.
The only thing that could come here to the board is if that starts catching on, which it really hasn't. I think the businesses that utilize it have already expressed interest in it and are using it. But then you could get people trying to be designated as a business from time to time. So that's the only thing that would probably come to the board. But I think everyone that wants it has it, as far as my understanding on it.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief.
That's what you guys moved to do.
Make a motion to start having staff work on an ordinance. It's been moved and seconded to have direct staff to start working on an ordinance. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Announcements.
Real quick though, based on that, I'll work with Corin, your Chief Misko, for the ordinance on the parking. Then I'll talk with interim DPW Director Faulkner regarding handicap spots. I know there's some state limits for size requirements and things of
I
that
didn't-
nature.
My motion did not include handicap, just so you know. you
But
can
we're
work on
still
that to
going
bring
to
it
look
back to
into
the
that
board.
regardless of that motion.
Okay.
It's just, we'll have to make sure we have spots that can accommodate legally.
I have some announcements from the library. Our library director sends her apologies that she is not here for the first meeting being held in the library, but she will be after that. So 2 updates. One, the library board would like to also look at updating their library logo. They know there's been a conversation from the village, and they want to make sure that they can stay relevant to the village's new logo, looking for the refresh as well. So they're looking forward to the village's decision on their new logo and where they're going, and then the library will start as well. I think it's very common for everyone to use that H that's on Trustee Anson and Trustee Meyers' shirt. And that H is incorporated in the library's logo, so they'll wait for direction from the village board. So, and then the last announcement for everyone, it is official that this program room, which is new and was opened just a few months ago, has now been named, and the official name is the Ice Age Trail Program Room. So for short, people will just call it the Ice Age Room. So it will honor the Ice Age Trail here, and then the other room will be the Bark River Room, which will honor the Bark River. So, and we voted on that last week. So that's it. Thank you, President.
Anybody else have announcements? You got anything?
Chief has something.
I just had one. I did send this out in the staff update, but just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. We had our first audit by the State of Wisconsin Department of Justice. The Training and Standards Bureau has been tasked with going around to all the police departments and checking to make sure all officers meet minimum requirements. There's a lot of different things that change throughout the years. So as you have 30-year employees, different criteria was put in place. We were able to get through our audit very quickly. All our records were in very good order, and we got a very nice letter written back from the state of Wisconsin, which is not always the case, and really commending us for the job we had and the records we had put in place. So went very well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Chief.
That's awesome.
Anybody else? Announcements?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. Aye. This meeting's adjourned.